Elizabeth Bathory d'Ixchid, better known as Elizabeth Bathory in common English, was born in 1560 in Transylvania. She was from a long line of Hungarian and Transylvanian nobility. She was the product of much inbreeding in her lineage. Her parents, Baron George Bathory and Baroness Anna Bathory, were siblings. Elizabeth was known to have fits of rage in her youth, as well as epileptic seizures. Elizabeth, though rare at the time, could read and write in Greek and Latin, as well as her native language. At the tender age of 11, Elizabeth was already betrothed. At 14, she was pregnant by a local peasant boy, and at 15, she was married to Count Ferenc Nadasdy, better known as the Black Knight of Hungary. They lived in Chita Castle. Her husband shared his gory details of war in the Ottoman Empire with her via letters. Intrigued and aroused by these, she began her own experiments. In 1604, her husband died, and that's when she really went off the deep end. In 1602, while her husband was still in the campaigns of war, rumors began to circulate in the village of Trenčín, that's present-day Slovakia, that peasant girls who went to work at the castle Chita never came back, and eventually other girls from the village started disappearing as well. Rumors started circulating that the Countess Elizabeth had killed and tortured these girls in many horrific ways: burning, beating, needles under the fingernails. She covered them in honey so bugs would attack them. She would give them ice water baths and then leave them outside in the snow to freeze to death. And she would sew their lips together. But Elizabeth's favorite torture was using scissors to cut off their hands, noses, and genitalia. But that's not all. The most notorious of her crimes was bathing in a porcelain bath filled with the blood of virgins, at an attempt to maintain a youthful appearance. By the time the King of Hungary, Matthias II, sent an investigator, Georg Thurzo, and priests to raid her castle on Christmas night in 1610, rumors of cannibalism and vampirism were already prevalent. Some say 300 witnesses accused her, but it was actually closer to 13 people. Thurzo was able to charge Elizabeth with the murder of 80 victims. Elizabeth herself alluded to over 650 victims. She kept the names in a mysterious and lost diary. For her crimes, Elizabeth was bricked up inside Chita Castle, where she remained until she died on August 21st, 1614. Her death was the result of self-starvation because of her depression about not being able to torture, kill, and bathe in virgins' blood anymore. She said all of this in her suicide note. She lived to be 54 years old. For generations after the death of Countess Elizabeth Bathory, the Hungarians made it illegal to speak her name in public. But were the horrific myths and legends surrounding Elizabeth completely true? Some scholars and historians claim the then Hungarian king, Matthias II, was in debt to Elizabeth's late husband and fabricated the whole story to incriminate Elizabeth and thusly make his debt go away, and he could seize control over her castle upon her death. Another conspiracy surrounding this could be the Catholic Habsburg dynasty trying to ruin the Protestant rulers of Transylvania, of which Elizabeth was a part. Interestingly, the lore and myth of the horrific and grotesque acts of Elizabeth just grew and grew until about 100 years after the fact, French writers added the most grotesque part of her bathing in blood. Because of this, it is impossible to be 100% confident in all of the claims surrounding Elizabeth Bathory. Unless any further evidence is discovered or uncovered, folk legends, myth, and lore will always remember her in popular culture, like books, comic books, graphic novels, movies, and games, as one of the most brutal and horrific serial killers of all time, the Blood Countess, Elizabeth Bathory. E has been brought to you by Evolution. Thanks, Evolution. We wouldn't be here without ya.